Hi guys, welcome to day 4. Today we are going to talk a little bit about the art of storytelling. There are those people that are just naturally have a way with words. In front of an audience, they can really bloom and talk about nothing. They could really be reading like the scientific journal and people are just enwrapped. Most people are not blessed with that way of speaking. But even so, that person who's so good in front of an audience might not come across that way over, the computer because it is a beast of its own. And since we do our sharing and stuff predominantly over the computer, you really need to know how to engage your audience. And that's where something called breadcrumbing comes in. And what that is, it's basically sharing small pieces of your story that keeps people interested and engaged and wanting to know more. So there is such a tendency to vomit your story once you have crafted it. You're like, I want people to know every little detail, everything about what happened. If I leave this detail out, I'm shortchanging myself and they won't fully understand what's going on. But no, that really is such a mistake because, number one, people have limited attention spans. They're getting shorter by the minute. Number two, you don't want to give all your information because why would they, okay, so now they know everything. So what? They lose some in the translation when you share every relevant detail. So what you want to do is give little layers of your story over time, like smaller Facebook posts. And each time you post, you would build on that. So you would add more crumb each time you go back to this. This is not like every day, obviously. This is, over the course of your postings, Facebook group postings are a different animal, and I'll talk about that later. But right now I'm talking about your status or a video or whatever. So I don't know if you remember, but in yesterday's video I talked about my story and how I was at the nail salon about 4 months after I had my second daughter, Stella, and I was sitting there with my favorite nail girl, and she looked at me and asked me when I was due. And I was devastated because I really thought that I was looking good postpartum. I was in total denial about how big I had gotten, and I really was just crushed. So if I was gonna breadcrumb something like that, what I would do, because you want to interweave Beachbody in somehow, and you got to start with that simple script, that what, when, how, but it can't be that whole story. So basically I would say something like, oh, just got back from the nail place. What a difference 2 years makes. This time 2 years ago, I was being asked when I was due, and I wasn't in fact pregnant. And this time the same person asked me what I was doing because I looked really good. Thanks Beachbody or something like that. Thanks Melissa for T25, something along those lines. That's a good little breadcrumb because people are oh wait, what are you doing? What's the story behind that? Because you don't give every single little detail. People, as we know, relate to you and not the product. So this is just a way to get people engaged. Before you post also, you want to ask yourself what the purpose of your post is. Because if it is just a post, don't do it. We're all told, post 3 times a day on social media. But if you're just posting just to post, people can feel that. Make sure your posts with your story and everything else have a purpose. So basically ask yourself when you post something, be if someone would look at it and be yeah, so what? We learned about this at Summit too. 9 times out of 10, if you feel people will be so what, that means they will. Now you don't have to be perfect, obviously. So don't overthink your posts too much. Don't be oh my god, everyone's gonna be so what, because I'm just not interesting. because that's not the case. If you follow these formulas of, you know, having your what, when, how, tying it back to Beachbody, and just giving little bits of your story each time in your little small Facebook posts, people will be engaged and they will relate to you because it's you that people are coming back for. In terms of Facebook group posts, like, you know, you're in like moms of like Real Housewives of Orange County moms or whatever like group you're on, the post can be longer than that. Like, obviously you want more of a complete like subject, what, when, how story. Like, I would tell the whole story like I told yesterday in that group with before and after pictures. But for a Facebook status, you have to breadcrumb it because these people are your audience. They're watching what you're doing. And you can breadcrumb through pictures too. Like, you can do a picture from 2 years postpartum compared with now. Like, just tie your stories all together. And every time, peel another layer back. You would say, like, why that bothered you so much, you know? Oh, it bothered me so much when she thought I was pregnant because it brought me back to my childhood where people made fun of me all the time for being overweight, and I just felt like that, you know, sad 8-year-old all over again. That's another example of going a little bit further the next time. You should also practice your story. Read it a bunch of times. You should videotape yourself telling your story because this way you can hear how it sounds coming from another person. I know it's super hard to listen to yourself on tape, believe me. Like, I have such a hard time watching myself. I'm having a hard time videotaping this now because I'm basically staring at myself and it's so awkward. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So, what I want you to do for today's assignment is I want you to post an example of a breadcrumbed Facebook status post. I want you to take from that subject, what, when, how story that you crafted yesterday, and I want you to post an example of a breadcrumb post. I really look forward to reading these, guys. Have a good one.